Hello, 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 and welcome to the Christmas edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. This is your host for the day, Bryan Weigel, filling in for Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle. Mr. PTO is taking Mr. Sick Time today, so unfortunately he cannot be here to join us for this end of year CST. But we got a special show for you guys tonight. Lots of news, lots of positivity to talk about going into the holidays, a lot of holiday spirit. So if you're watching this show, I'm a little bit disappointed that nobody thought to dress in the holiday spirit. Just brain fart by all five of us. So
I thought about it.
We kind of have three red hairs, and that's kind of like elfish, whatever. Awesome. Super glad that you guys are here for our last show of 2021. Oh, there you go, Brad. Very nice. What is that, mistletoe? Pulling in the frame. I'm not sure what he's doing. Joining us, if you're looking at this screen, to the middle of our group here is we got the man, the myth, the legend, the host of Talking Tactics with Coach Goff and Justin Hoyt, Coach Brad Goff out in Cali. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing super well, Bryan. You know, I'm a little bit peeved, though, that you didn't include me in the redheads, because if you look very closely, I think, okay, well,
Like
I
real
used to be a redhead.
Hey, Coach, the only time your head gets red is when you've been out in the sun too long. I'm joking. Glad to have you here, and so thankful for you to join us on this special show. Get to dissect a little bit about these moves. All the way to the far side of the screen, the Alec, Kann of podcast hosts, Brad Weigel. How you doing, buddy?
I don't really know how to take that. I feel like I play a little bit more than he does, but that's okay.
You've always been behind the legend, and you're just good enough. You know, you just like kind of in the whole roster budget. You know, Ken Hecker's the Brad Guzan. You're the Alec Kann.
I was going to say you might be the Brad Guzan because you played the dumbass pretty well.
That is pretty good. Don't muff many balls there in the goalkeeping. No, glad to have you, buddy. Just right below us, man, we got one of the godfathers of Cincinnati soccer, Jeremy Lance. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to figure out what I am what player I am.
Oh, let's see. I'd say you're jack of all trades, filling in a lot of stuff. So the Yuya Kubo, perhaps. We'll just
there you go. Yeah, I'll play out of position. Sure.
And finally, Jason Ashcraft, one of the newbies of Cincinnati Soccer Tech. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. I'm going to assume that I'm the bench warmer of the group. You know, that's how it was when I actually played sports.
I think you're more like the Tyler Blackett, the good signing, good pedigree, and came on real strong towards the end of the year.
Oh, well, thank you.
And his wage doesn't kill us either.
I like this. A little bit of give and take here. I don't have a soliloquy written out like Boston Razzle Dazzle does for this show. Just here to say thank you guys so much for this great year. It's been a very difficult year to cover FC Cincinnati full-time, actually 3 years in a row of difficulties. But we're here to turn the page. And part of that page, guys, Chris Albright, the new general manager of FC Cincinnati, has his first of several big moves of the week coming midweek with the appointment of his buddy, his friend, I guess we'll say. You know, they were in Philadelphia together. People say that only Cincinnati GMs hire their buddies with Ron Jans and whatever. Pat Noonan, U.S. men's national team superstar. So, guys, what did you make of that? I'll throw it over to Brad first. What did you make of the hire? You know, how long is it going to take for him to lead us to the promised land of not last place?
I think the issue all along really has been more so with the general manager and their unfamiliarity or their lack of capacity to understand a salary cap and a budget. But I do like it just because he's familiar. I'll let Coach tell me how he's going to, throw down the latest and greatest formation and tactical style out there. But I think it's smart. I think it helps raise the floor for FC Cincinnati, which continued to get lower and lower and lower. And you know what? I think it's at least going to give us a jumping off point. So I'm not going to get too excited before we see how he performs and how he does. But, he's been thought of highly by so many people, and I'm glad he's getting a shot.
Jeremy, you followed Major League Soccer on your other podcast, Wrong Side of the Pond, for a long time. You know, what did you make of this appointment? You know, former LA Galaxy assistant, U.S. men's national team assistant, success with Philadelphia Union. Really, I mean, he succeeded everywhere he's gone except for the U.S., and that was disappointing. But is this the attractive signing that you thought?
This is not the attractive, flashy signing, and that's good. This is the smart, sensible signing we should have made in 2019. So I'm ecstatic. We're at square one finally.
Yeah,
we made it.
We finally caught up to 0.
Yeah, I guess Jason, it's kind of like, I don't know if I would equate this to Josh Wolf, but it's kind of like a safe pick for like an expansion side, a rebuild, somebody who's been around the block, knows the league. And that's a huge thing for us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what has been missing from this club since day one, as Jeremy hinted at. Yeah, we are back to 0, but it's not like Chris Albright is an unknown. And he was kind of sought after by a couple of the other teams in the league that had coaching vacancies. And it's nice to finally land him.
Now, Coach, everybody's been waiting to hear your thoughts on this. His pedigree, he's been with Bruce Arena, Jim Curtin. He hasn't been a head coach before, but he's moving to that role. I mean, how difficult is it to go from an assistant under those, big personalities to this, head coaching spot?
I think for a guy like Pat Noonan, it's not going to be as difficult as it might be for other coaches, because guys like Jim Curtin and Bruce Arena aren't known to be really hands-on in a lot of the on-field stuff. They're more big picture people. They're more man managers. And so my guess would be that Pat Noonan already has quite a bit of say in the team setup, the tactics. Maybe he doesn't pick the team per se. And that's the biggest difference. When the buck stops with you, when you are the one making that decision, do you have the courage that it takes to pull that trigger when it means, putting one of your stars on the bench or starting a guy like we saw in the MLS Cup with the decision to start Sebastian Blanco? That was a courageous decision that didn't work out. And when the buck stops with you, you have to think much harder about making those decisions than when you're just giving your input to, Jimmy Curtin and being like, hey, Jimmy, why don't we start this guy? No, okay, it's on you.
Yeah, it is a huge change, I guess, when you haven't been there. But I mean, it's not like, Bruce Arena is I wouldn't say he's a day in, day out, like micromanaging kind of guy. I think he'd be kind of a big picture. So he's been in the weeds before, with Pat Noonan on managing these rosters. Plus, he's had a lot of managerial experience. I mean, was it Robbie Keane in LA Galaxy? He's managed several of the U.S. players. So, I mean, you think, okay, since Cincinnati wants to bring in some high profile players, he should have at least some experience managing, those guys.
I think so. I also think that one of the surest ways to have success in MLS, there's two main ways. One, you can just get far and away the best talent on the field, like Atlanta did the year that they had Almiron and Martinez and the lot. Or you can have a really cohesive system. And this is what we've seen in Colorado, right? Everybody is on the same page. This is what we see in Philadelphia. This is what we see in Seattle. When we make these comments like, how come these teams can roll 16-year-olds out on the field and still play FC Cincinnati off the pitch? It's not because their 16-year-olds are good. It's not even because FCC is that bad, even though in some cases they were. It's because the cohesive system from top to bottom is ingrained in that club. So having a guy in Noonan who is already familiar with the general manager and with the ability to build this roster together could be a huge step in the right direction.
Is an off season just like 2 months here? I mean, it's December 20th. We're going to be playing, nearly, a couple months away. Is this enough time to install what you really want to do, or is it going to be a process of a whole season? I mean, should we be asking the fan base for patience again?
I think the patience that's needed, the system should be installed. You should be able to get that in this preseason, and everybody should know what they're trying to do on the field. The patience that needed is going to be what we've seen with this roster construction, which is not the fault of the current administration. And there are going to be some guys who are going to have to either play out of position or not play some bigger names. And Alvaro Barrial and Isaac Katanga, these are guys that don't really fit into the typical system that we've seen from Philadelphia in the past, which is what we assume that Cincinnati is going to employ.
All right, guys. Do any of you guys have any more final thoughts? Did you like anything from his press conference that you took away, saying, I'm sold, Pat Noonan hype train 2022?
Well, I was going to say overall, just to kind of piggyback off what Coach said for a second, the style of play, I'm really interested to see how he's going to work with Larry Sunderland and the academy. So, when we interviewed Larry Sunderland, what is it, a year or so ago, he talked about technique and skills, about passing and possession that necessarily, isn't necessarily connected to that 4-3-3. So I want to see how the academy is going to grow and how they're going to incorporate some of these young kids into this different style of play, the 4-4-2 versus that 4-3-3.
The one thing I really wanted to hear from the press conference is the style of play that Pat wants to employ, because he's not necessarily set up, is what Coach and Brad, you guys were saying, is the players right now. You got Isaac Atanga out there, Alvaro Barrial, where two U22 big roster mechanism spots for the club. I'm really interested how they use those guys going forward. Is Jeremy, whatever you guys want, whoever wants to jump in here, is there a spot for these guys in a 4-4-2 kind of narrow setup?
I think
it's
a couple
things. Sorry, Coach. I think it's a case of earning your spot. I mean, we may have some guys that might surprise us. Who would have known going into last year that Yui Kubo could have played the position he played? I don't think that we're in the best.
I don't think he knew that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we're in the best position, but it might be a case of someone might be able to surprise us.
Coach?
Yeah, I think that what you're going to see in the setup is that formation is not going to be as important as what you're asking the players to do. And you can play the style that Philadelphia likes to play, where you like to get out and run quick. It's not a bunker and counter system, but it is a higher press. It is a get the ball forward, playing much more forward passes than backward passes, that sort of a thing. It's not that sustained possession where you're really trying to unbalance the defense. You're trying to get in behind them quickly. And you can do that out of any formation. So if you go out there and you say, we're going to nominally play a 4-4-2 diamond, and you have Isaac Atanga as the right side of that diamond, he is not going to play the same way as if you have a Yuya Kubo or a Caleb Stenko or somebody back there. Thank goodness we don't have to worry about that. And anyway, it's going to be different. And so playing that style and having the players around that player, knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are, is going to be more key than whether that player can actually do that specific job or not.
So I get nervous here because we've had a rough 3 years, and it's a lot to ask the fan base to stay patient again. So what do you think success is going to look like, Brad? What do you think success is going to look like? I'll go to all you guys for Pat Noonan in year one. What's your bar for success? Not last place?
Golly.
Is that meeting expectations? Like not being in last place?
That's minimal expectations, right?
Yeah,
It's certainly not playoffs, right?
Good,
Or is that always expectations with the
I'll
league
take
that
a
takes
freaking
17?
win at home. That's a
2 wins
that's
at
the
home.
bar.
2
Well,
wins.
I haven't seen FC Cincinnati win at home in like 2.5 years. So I'll take a win at home. But I just want to feel like the train's headed in the right direction and we start to see our assets appreciate versus depreciate. Because I feel like that's all it's been the last 3 years is Calvin Harris ain't getting nothing out of him. Brenner, that was a waste. Yuya Kubo, DP, but we're playing about position. I want to see the guys put in positions that we know that they can succeed in. And that's why I said it at the top of the show. I think the bigger signing this whole just it was before the offseason, but I think the 2021, the best signing of the year is Chris Albright. And because Chris Albright's going to speak the same language as the head coach, I think that is going to help. You know what? Let's just not be in contention the last 2 weeks of the year to set another MLS record for least goals or most goals conceded. That would be success to me.
I do want to correct you, Brad. Both Gerard and Jaap Stam spoke Dutch. David
Literally
Moore,
the same language. Yeah.
Ignorance?
David Moore. Success is not finishing last. Goals against under 60, more than one home win. Nathan Explosion. Make the playoffs minimum. Jeff Tebbett's success equals finishing ahead of Charlotte and at least one regional rival, Chicago and Columbus. Interesting you didn't put Nashville in there, Jeff. Guys, what else do you make? I mean, what's your guys' level for success? I mean, Jason?
I want to say, I think setting the bar at not finishing last is too low. I don't want to say like last year, I thought we would finish within spitting distance of playoffs. So I don't think that's necessarily realistic. So for me, yeah, don't finish last, but maybe try to have a 500 record or something at home. Give the fans here in Cincinnati something to cheer for, and make it so we don't feel like we're wasting our money on season tickets and stuff.
Jeremy, coach?
Yeah, no, I think Jason's right. Like we have to do a little bit better than just not being the worst. That should be the aim, right? Yeah, 500 at home. Just playing meaningful games, playing games where that actually matter, like into like the late summer. Actually, just looking competent week in and week out. Let's just do that. Let's just see 90 minutes where we're like, hey, we could actually win this game. We're actually playing a good game. I just feel like there was so many times last year. Oh my gosh, down the stretch, it got so bad. Where you just knew within the first 5 minutes, like, nah, they don't have it. This is gonna be a disaster.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna ruin this segment by saying this, but let's just recap like how far away we are from that. And the additions we can only make this year, like this offseason, honestly, it's gonna be maybe Alec, Kann, a starting goalkeeper, maybe a right back in Alvis Powell, maybe a starting forward in Dom Baji. And then you might only have one or two key signings after that. Like if
You're ruining the whole second
the
half
new
of the show.
coaching staff can jump to an awesome level of that, I mean, you're talking coach of the year.
I don't know if I can go that far, Brad.
Seriously, that's how far down we were, and we're returning the same damn team.
But remember, we now have Charlotte in, and Charlotte is already blowing it. So we got that to look forward to.
They're running
and someone
FC
that can be
Cincinnati
worse
playbook.
than us.
But weren't people saying that about Nashville, like when they started?
Yeah.
I think they were a lot more domestic heavy, and then when they executed the Walker Zimmerman trade, I think that had a lot of people.
That was a game changer.
Yeah, change. And I always kind of equate this year to almost like a second expansion year, except we do have some.
This is our
formidable
third
pieces.
expansion year.
You start to remember, you're right. But we have Lucho, Costa, and Brenner at least returning. So, Coach, let's put a bow on this here.
Yeah.
What do you think made Pat Noonan attracted to this job? I mean, we've been dogging the team, but why go out on a limb to Cincinnati when he was reported to go interview at a bunch of other places, and he's a high-level guy? Why would you want to come to Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is what we were just talking about. What does success look like for this club? And Pat Noonan knows coming in that the playoffs is not the goal this season. Obviously, it's the goal. It always is. But nobody is going to be faulting this team if they don't finish in the playoffs. If this team finishes with meaningful games heading into the last month of the season, people are going to be applauding the staff. It's what we just said. So that's number one. It's almost baked in success if you can just be competent. Like we said, if you can just be competent, it's baked in success. Number two, FC Cincinnati has proven as an organization that they are willing to do the things necessary to try to reach for success. Now, they haven't done a good job of that, but they are willing to try. They're not the Bengals. They're not the Reds. They're not trying. They went out and built a world-class facility. If a coach comes in, even when he's on a good contract and he's not doing a good job, he gets sent back out the door. And those are the things that we have seen time and time again. I don't know if you guys are like me, but how many times in the last 5 years of Marvin Lewis's career with the Bengals were we like, when is this guy going to lose his job, right? With FC Cincinnati, it's maddening that it happens so frequently because they keep replacing the coach and the general manager with worse versions, but they are at least making that effort. So you have baked in success. You have an organization that is trying to go for it. And this team does have some pieces in Lucho Acosta, in Brenner, in Jeff Cameron to have some success on the field. So what is that success? Success this year, even though it sounds funny, is being put in a position to make the playoffs in 2023. And now, so certainly it's not finishing last. Is it third from last? Well, not if there's a big gap between third from last and the playoff line. But if that gap is 10 points in your third from last, that's successful. I think it's just simply, if the next logical step after this year is competing for the playoffs, then this team has done a good job. Then Pat Noonan and Chris Albright have done a good job.
Yeah, to kind of put a bow on your point there, 11th place was at 41 points, 10th was at 46, and then 8 and 9 were at 47. So, I mean, if you can get into that, we're close, but, not fully there, I think. I completely agree with you. Wrapping a bow on this, competency. I just want him to be here the whole season. We have never had an MLS coach be here the full season. That is about as low of a bar as you can go. So hopefully he doesn't do anything or say anything stupid, and we can keep him around. All right, guys. Appreciate you being here. If you are a fan of the show, you've been listening to us talk about our great partners, Suero X. Make sure to rehydrate with the new Suero X. 0 sugar, 0 calories, and the power of 8 ions will speed up your recovery time, keep your body hydrated and balanced, and helps replenish the 8 main ions that you lose during the day, including zinc. According to our friends over at Suero X, they will be in Kroger beginning in the new year. So keep your eye out and grade it. Make sure to pick up the great drink. It really is a wonderful beverage. You can get it on their website. I think our promo code has expired, but we'll try to get you guys a new one and start 2022 on the right hydrated foot versus the dehydrated that we normally do. All right, guys, we did have some moves. Brad teased it earlier. Our first signing of the offseason of the Chris Albright era, free agent goalkeeper Alec Kann, however you say it.
I think it's Kann. I think that's what I heard he say.
Okay,
So
Alec Kann from Atlanta United. He's been pretty much a career backup, but I hate this football analogy, but I kind of equate him to like the Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Schaub sitting behind Tom Brady down there. Top level backup. Guys, are you excited with this move, Brad?
He's better than being playing down a man, which we did all last year.
Good point. Jeremy?
Wow, big optimism there. I'm excited. I think it's a good pickup. It's a smart one. It's a 2-year move. So you let him start this year. If he doesn't earn it next year, when you clear off another keeper from the books, you go ahead and you bring someone else in, and then he can compete with that person in 2024. Or 2023. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty easy move that they made that. It's not hitting the budget real hard. They didn't have to blow a bunch of allocation money or anything like that. It's a good, clean, smart move. I think he's going to do a decent job. Again, it's just decent. That's just all we're looking for. Just decent.
Yeah, we kind of banged the drum, Jason, all season about how our goalkeepers were costing Cincinnati goals. And Alec, of course, in a limited set of games, he had a positive goals against differential. What sticks out to you on him coming into Cincinnati and how maybe he can succeed?
I think sometimes with these backup goalkeepers, all they need is a chance. I know I referenced my time back living in Salt Lake quite a bit, but I had the opportunity to watch the greatest goalkeeper in MLS history, Nick Rimando, week in and week out. And there was another guy under him, Jeff Antonella, who was his backup, who never really saw the pitch, then went on to Portland and had a pretty good career. So sometimes it's just a change of scenery. And that's what I think maybe we're hoping to get with Kann, just to give him some reps, and hopefully he can turn into the next number 1 keeper for FC Cincinnati.
Coach, he's 31 years old, not a spring chicken. He's been around the block. I think he's been in the league for 6-7 years. Do you think this is a guy who's a long-term, or is it somebody who maybe is just that placeholder for Beckham Sunderland if he is a part of the future?
I mean, 31 in goalkeeper years is 27 in field player years, probably. I mean,
and he's a college player.
Yeah.
It's not unrealistic to think that he could play till he's 40 years old. That said, we have to see him between the pipes long term before we start to see whether he's going to last season after season. But the things that you want out of your goalkeeper as, say, a center back is, number 1, not terrible, which FC Cincinnati didn't have last year. Number two, consistently not terrible. Even if you're not great, if you're consistent, if I know that if I can let a guy shoot from 40 yards, the ball's probably not going to go in 99% of the time, that can change the way that I play. How many times did we see last year center backs running out of position to try to get a touch on the ball or something? They were petrified to let any ball in the box, any ball on frame, because of the state of the goalkeepers back there. So consistently not terrible. I think we'll get in Kann. I'm almost positive that we'll get it. Just in what we've seen of him, we've seen that he has not been terrible. What we had seen of Vermeer prior to last season was terrible. And I guess they thought a change of scenery might help him. But I don't think that he's going to be Matt Turner or Andre Blake or competing for a best 11 spot. But again, you don't need that out of your goalkeeper if he can be consistently not terrible. So that is the battle cry for Kann is, can you be consistently not terrible?
Isn't that the battle cry for the whole team this season?
Yes,
Right.
it is.
The interesting thing with Kann is the 31, and I almost think that's more of just like a result of the MLS roster mechanisms and the limited mobility within the league. So I'm really interested to see what he's going to do in getting that starting opportunity, because he literally just has to show up to win the job right now. Like, we cannot continue to roll out Vermeer, and if they do, the fan base is just going to lose it. So I wish him all the success in the world.
According to the MLSPA, he was on $115,000 last year. I'm assuming he probably got a raise, but I can't imagine he's breaking the bank on that. Brad, it appears right now that we have two senior roster goalkeepers. Laurel had, I think in one of her stories, reported that there might be another goalkeeper coming. Is it even possible for FC Cincinnati to have a good roster construction with three senior rostered goalkeepers?
No, and you don't see any successful teams in MLS do it. I know they mentioned about bringing another goalkeeper. The only way I see that is if it's some sort of like college kid or maybe like an Evan Newton type guy where he's in USL and they put him on the supplemental roster. Because honestly, it looks like FC Cincinnati has 3 open supplemental spots right now. Obviously, you have Calvin Harris occupying the one. Maybe they get another GA deal in the draft. So you've got a couple spots available there. I don't see it, but FC Cincinnati roster is so top heavy right now with DPs and TAM players. If they wanted to throw an additional 25 or 50,000 at Kann to get him to sign here, and then he turns out to be a starting goalkeeper, that's awesome. That's awesome for him. That's really a smart roster build for the club, because you get Vermeer to fall off, Kann sign through 23. You know what? If you get him as a starter, you can revisit that well next year, and all of a sudden you've got a lot more allocation money to spend to fill out that depth that really you're going to see next year when you have a ton of players roll off.
Sound like this is a little bit of a gamble, but it's an affordable one. Second player, guys, returning to FC Cincinnati, right back, Alvis Powell. Raise your hand if you thought that was coming, 3-4 months ago. Yeah, no, not at all. No, of course, you heard a lot of rumblings out of Philadelphia that he might be coming. Of course, he's on a supplemental roster spot in Philadelphia. We'll see what he ends up here in Cincinnati in 2022. Jason, when you saw the defensive prowess of Alvis Powell in 2019, and you heard he was joining us in 2022, did that just make you jump for joy?
It certainly did. I was running around the house, waving my hands around. But in all seriousness, it's a depth move, and we mentioned the possibility of bringing another goalkeeper on the supplemental roster. A thing to remember this coming year is we also have the MLS Next Pro team that's going to be tied to FC Cincinnati. So maybe Alvis is somebody you bring in to maybe go play there for a little while and move up for supplemental. I'm not ecstatic about it, but it's a depth move. And, if it helps us be consistently not terrible, thanks, coach, then I'm all for it.
Well, you say it's a depth move, but now we got, we have 2 right backs on the roster. Do you go and get a third with a senior roster? But we'll visit this a little bit more, Brad, in the roster build section of the show. But Coach Goff, is this a guy who you think can start, maybe the first half of the season until we get to the summer window and see what we have? I mean, do you feel comfortable with Alvis Powell? I mean, he's not the worst opportunity out there. He performed well the last half with Philly, but does that make you comfortable? I mean, he's got 9 years of experience in the league.
When I scouted Alvis Powell when he first arrived in Cincinnati, I was really excited what I saw. I saw a guy who was quick. He was decent in a tackle. His defensive prowess wasn't his strength, but it was not terrible. And he was really good at serving the ball and at getting forward, almost like a winger. I profiled him out to be like a wing back in 3-5-2 because he's so good going forward. What we saw when he was here was not necessarily a deficiency in skill. It was a perceived deficiency in attitude. If you remember, it was the amount of times we saw him not running back on defense when he got beat, things like that. All indications are from everyone, and Pat Noonan and Chris Albright should know as well as anyone that has changed over the past 3 years. And if you think about being a younger person and how much you age throughout your 20s, especially when you're having life experiences of moving overseas and stuff, it can be quite a bit. Some of us don't even have, our first child until we're in our 30s. So things like that. The point is maturity is going to allow his ability, hopefully, to coalesce on the field. And I think he is going to be more than serviceable. I think that he's going to be, an average MLS right back. And in MLS with the system and the salary cap, you need to be just average at certain positions. And I'll take it at right back over what we had last year.
Again, I feel like there's 8 different ways of saying competent here, Coach Jeremy. I mean, do you feel comfortable? I mean, is he going to be, or are you sold that we know what we're doing if we go into the season with Albright only having him and Zico as the right backs?
I would be a little worried. Listen, I'll defer to Coach and others on this. I saw a lot of people talking about how the system that you had in Philly suited Powell a lot more, and that's why he played pretty well, especially down the stretch. I mean, Coach can kind of speak to that, but that's kind of one of the things I saw, which gives me hope. But I do hope that there is possibly someone else brought in, because I just don't know if he can be the guy.
I'll just cap it off by saying I am worried if we have Alvis Powell and Zico Bailey, if we do not have a midfielder on the right side of the diamond in the midfield in front of them, as this team's currently constituted. If they get a cover midfielder who's got a huge work rate that can get up and down there, I will be more apt to go with those two. But as it stands right now, it's not enough for me. But offseason's still not over.
You know what? Eric Alexander, we'll just call him up. That worked out real well last time.
Jeremy, I got PTSD, bro. You need to knock it off with that.
The guy playing in front of Powell in Philadelphia was Ali Bedoya, correct? And that's the kind of, he is all effort. I mean, he's got some skill too, but that's never been his strong suit. It's all about how he gets after it. So I agree with you there. Having somebody that can recover after Alvis gets up the pitch is going to be really important.
All right. Well, that is the 2 official signings so far from Chris Albright and Window, and I wouldn't say they're life-changing, earth-shattering signings, but they're solid and they're a step in the right direction. They don't cost very much. They're domestic, so you don't have to buy international spots. So these are the right moves that you hope to see when you're rebuilding the roster. And if we get a 50-50 return on this, these first 2 moves, I think we're headed in the right direction. Kevin on YouTube says there has to be another player coming in that can play right back and right midfielder. I think that is very possible, considering the roster construction with several probably midfield roles open there. But at some point, we've got a lot of money in Isaac Atanga and Alvaro Barreal, and we're going to see how they take to having to do a lot of the dirty work. We'll touch on the next potentially 2 signings here in a bit. But first, our show is by and large supported by the fans. We do get sponsors like SoRx, but the legwork is done by you all. And when we switched from Nick to our new Patreon, we lost some of our funding. So we would love to see if you guys can help support us and help provide great content to you guys, getting great writers, great photographers, as well as some of our show editing skills, especially for Coach's Show. Of course, it's free for you guys, but if you wouldn't mind helping us, we'd appreciate it. But we do want to give a shout out to all those who have signed up. We have Reilly, John Davidson, Mike Hudson, Robert Stevens, Laurel Failer, Matt Adamchick, Buddy Taylor, Riley Stephen Burke, James DeBow, Tom Niehaus, Brian Giles, Dan Albers, Will Caltech, Ian Rexroad, Augustin Caceres, Bill Antoninus, Carl Feit, Jeremy Schrand, Kyle Pohl, Christina Schwimmer, Rupesh, Tom Beaversdorf, Jason, who's super average, John Haskell, Ryan Ernest, Mary Lou, Wes Anastasi, Rob Pierce, Clifford Adams, and Thomas Spieth. To support Cincinnati Soccer Talk, go to cincinnatissoccertalk.com/support or go on Patreon and search for Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Guys, we heard a rumored signing. It was on, I guess, first we heard it from some fellow podcasters, and then we saw it on Instagram. Dom Baji was, we call it a recruiting trip, guys. Does that sound about right? A recruiting trip to Cincinnati?
I don't know. It looked a little bit more serious than a recruiting trip.
I mean, for a guy who's in the free agent process to put a photo of his jersey, number 11, I guess, in the Cincinnati locker room, that's pretty ballsy, I will have to say.
And then posting it and then taking it down.
Oh, did he take it down?
Oh, he took it down. So like the whole thing was weird. So he posts it. Everyone catches it. We go crazy. Everyone's talking about like Colorado people are freaking out like, oh no, he's going. And then that one guy, that Inside Rapids guy was like, no, he's not. And then right around that time, Baji deletes the Instagram, story, and then liked that tweet.
He liked our tweet too. Gotta love it.
Trying to get paid.
Where's Baji?
Oh, where is Baji? There you go.
I'm not gonna lie, our boy Layup JK Joey just sent him that image. Just throw it up. It'll make FC Cincinnati fans melt down for a second. You know how he is with the graphic arts. It felt to me almost like a college visit. Like the players put on a jersey, they take photos with the gloves and all that stuff.
But that happens when you've signed and they're doing all the media stuff. When Tommy G and Fourth Floor Creative are taking all your photos, that's what that looked like. So if something hasn't happened now,
yeah.
But we have our first oopsie of the offseason.
Yeah. But let's set context here, because even though I think the move would be great, a partner up next to Brenner, and Vasquez did well, but I would love to have another backup for that. But this almost felt like a guy who he wants to see what's going on out there, but it's still going to take a lot to leave Colorado. He hasn't had success last year and a half. He goes there and he gets 7 goals and 7 assists or something. He did so well for the first place team. Why would you want to go from the first place team in the West to the cellar dwellers from the last 3 years in the East? I'm just being real. I'm not hating on FC Cincinnati here, but I like that he's going to see it. Maybe not the best advice to go out and put that stuff on social media, but we have to be a little bit real here. What it's going to take to move one of the most successful players from the Rapids to here in a matter of months.
I don't know about the 7 goals, 7 assists, but he did have 5 goals in 2021 for the Colorado Rapids, playing 12 games with 3 starts. Dom Baji is, what did you say, Jeremy? Like a Darren Maddox kind of year one kind of guy.
Yeah.
It's somebody who's
Similar
really
guy.
never lit the world on fire, but's always put in a good shift, high work rate, can eat a lot of minutes, and still, be a part of, we'll say, 8 to 10 goals a year, whether those are goals or assists. So
Yeah.
he's a known commodity that, I guess there could be a lot worse options, unknown international players coming in. And this is a guy who you think would at least give us 5 to 8 goals if he's featured like he probably would be in this striker core.
Again, right now with kind of the roster situation, the financial situation with the budget,
Domestic.
I don't see them making any moves that's going to cost them too much and kind of put too much stress on the roster and on the budget. So unless they think they can get this done in a club friendly way, yeah, I don't know if it totally makes sense.
Okay, so club friendly way, he was about $300,000 on his last contract. I'm not sure he could get that again, but that could be one way of luring him to Cincinnati. Jason, what do you make of you've watched the league for a while. What do you make of Don Bocci?
You're right. I don't think he's going to get $300K. I don't think he's worth necessarily more than that. Since 2015, he has only scored less than 5 goals a season 3 times. And, I don't know the story behind each of those seasons, but just looking at where FC Cincinnati has been, how much would we have given to have somebody consistently score 5 goals or more in that position? We haven't gotten a lot of production out of the front of the formation at all. And I was screaming last year to the high heavens to have somebody up there with Brenner. Now, I'm not a coach. I just thought it might help, But I think if we can bring him in, great. He scored 5 goals last year, had a bad year the year before, and then scored 7 the year before that. Bring in somebody that can give you 4 or 5 extra goals up front. Pair them with Brenner. Hopefully, maybe pair him with Kubo. I don't know, but give yourself some depth and some scoring prowess. I think that helps FC Cincinnati. Is Badji the guy for that? If you can find somebody with similar stats for $200,000, I say you take that over Badji, but I would take Badji if given the opportunity.
I actually think he's going to get something like 500,000.
No way.
Yes, he
From
does.
who?
Yes, he is. He's going to get it from Colorado. He's going to get it from somebody. The guy
Who's writing that check in Colorado?
Dude, seriously, he's able.
They're owned by
Don Garber?
He's a free agent. That's RSL.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's a free agent. He put in a bunch of goals for Colorado.
5 in 12 games.
Yeah,
Not
and
get carried away.
he did very well there. He was making 300, like Brandon, or whatever you say, but Brandon Vasquez made 280 grand last year. We are kidding ourselves if we're going to get Badji less than.
Who orchestrated Brandon Vasquez's deal?
I'm just saying. Don Badji.
So am I. I'm just saying
all the
as well.
MLS guys. You ask all the MLS guys out there. They think he's a hot commodity right now. I bet you money he's going to cost somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. And actually, FC Cincinnati set up the way this roster structure is. We are so top heavy on those TAM spots, but we have a lot of GAM left, where we could actually give him $50,000 more for GAM for a year or two, and it's not going to hamstring us with the other signing. So actually, I think we might overpay for a little bit over Colorado, give him $400,000, give him $500,000, and give Brenner.
Nope.
No, seriously, like he's a good partner. We need a target guy up there that can help Brenner out, take a little pressure off. The guy presses lights out. He fits what we do. He didn't initially fit what Nashville did. He fits what we want out of a secondary player up there. I don't think that it's a bad signing to pay $450,000. Get a guy that fits the system. Like literally, we've been screaming for the last couple of years. The puzzle pieces don't match. This one does. So guess what? Give him $25,000, give him $50,000 more, and it'll work. It's going to take a little pressure off of Brenner. You need a guy who's going to press, unlike Acosta, and help him out.
I need a drink.
I'm going to click clock you.
Don't silence.
I'm going to click
It makes
you.
so much sense here.
Write it down. Badji gets $400K. Cliff Adams, I'm going to let you keep track of that one. And this is a good segue because I wanted to go to Coach here. Thank you, Brad, for that great analysis. Rupesh, how much is that the fault of the players and how much was tactics? So if you were building this roster, this squad out, is Brandon Vasquez satisfactory to you as a strike partner for Brenner all season? Or if not, what traits would you look for to fill that role?
I think if you're going to play 2 up top, you have to have an additional guy. I think Vasquez should get rotational minutes, but I don't think he should be in pen alongside Brenner. I think you have to have a guy that you can rotate Brenner out every once in a while. We saw how he looked down the stretch. You have to have another guy, a third player that would work well. That doesn't have to be the guy, because everything coming out of Albright has been that they're going to make Brenner the guy, right? So I think the problem that you have with Baji is we keep saying a target guy alongside Brenner. Well, Baji, he might be more of a target than Brenner is, but he's like 6 foot, $180. He's not a presence. From what I can remember, I haven't scouted him, but from what I can remember, he's not fantastic in the air. He's not that target presence. He is another body up there. He's not Lucho Costa up there either, right? But he's not Brandon Vasquez up there. So I think if you're bringing Baji in, you're doing it for 2 reasons. Number one, to have another guy to rotate in that could come in on the Vasquez side of that or the Brenner side of that. And number 2, Baji has the ability to slide out to left wing if you want to experiment playing with some 4-3-3 down the stretch in games. You know, you have a guy like Atanga. If you say he's only going to play winger, maybe your plan is to go to a 4-3-3 late in games when you need a goal. And so Baji maybe slides out left in that case, because as we know, the team also has not had a true left winger out there. And Baji is a left-footed player who's played quite a bit of left wing as well.
See, this is why we have Coach on the show, because he is very smart.
It's not for my beautiful hairline.
All right. Well, those are kind of the 3 names that we've heard over the past week in FC Cincinnati land. But Brad, I think you're sniffing a little bit more of international rumors, maybe some midfield help.
Yeah, man.
Put you in a tough spot, huh?
Yeah.
This is why you come to Cincinnati, because I put him in a hot seat. In the hot seat. Yes, we are hearing hopefully an international midfielder.
Yeah. No, I think it's no secret that FC Cincinnati's on the hunt for a defensive midfielder, and you know what? If it's a high price player that might, command a wage that would probably come from the international sector, I think that FC Cincinnati would likely be in on that. So if you can read between the tea leaves, I think we're going to see some reinforcements in the defensive midfield this trade window.
Oh, I love putting Brett on the spot. There's nothing better. All right, guys, we have about 15 minutes left in our show here, and I think a lot of these nuances, kind of what Brett even spoke to about the GAM and how you can apply TAM, GAM, ma'am, thank you, ma'am, whatever you call it, kind of breaks down to our roster budget and the roster mechanisms and the flexibility. You saw Albright work through the free agency mechanisms this week. He passed on the waiver drafts. Brett, you're going to... What's up?
I just want credit when the news breaks that we signed a defensive midfield that I was going to call first.
I'll write it down. I'm going to write it down right now.
Need more specific.
As reported by Brad White.
Oh, floating those rumors. I'm joking. Back to what I was saying.
It's rumored to possibly hear that we're going to possibly sign a defensive midfielder.
Oh, good. There you go. Solid. So, Brad, break
You going to be okay?
Brad, break down our 2022 expected roster for FC Cincinnati. Of course, you get 20 senior spots. You get 4 supplemental roster spots, which can be Generation Adidas, senior roster minimums, or senior player minimums. And then you have spots 25 through 28, which are more your draft picks, your homegrowns, your reserve supplemental roster spots. And then, of course, your 29 through 30, which are more specifically homegrown players, which I assume would be Kimi as well as Beckham Sunderland. But
Sure.
How are we looking in this roster build?
Well, what's the biggest question this offseason for you guys?
Number 6 that can take over a game.
Okay. So who's our number 6 right now? Camo? So the biggest question this offseason is FC Cincinnati go buy him out. This all means nothing if FC Cincinnati does not buy out Kamahela Makocho. Okay. So assuming they buy him out, FC Cincinnati's got 6 senior spots available, 2 of which are going to be taken up by Alec, Kann, and Alvis Powell, so 6 or 7. But FC Cincinnati's going to have a lot of room on the back end of the roster. In the supplemental spots, you've got 3 supplemental, you got 2 reserve rosters. There's plenty of places to stash guys that you can put in the MLS 2 team. But FC Cincinnati right now needs a backup center back, probably a starting right back, a DP6, and then likely an 8. So those are your signings for this season right now. Now, FC Cincinnati's got a ton of GAM. You're talking upwards of over $1 million, $1.5 million GAM. But, they're going to be able to use that to get some guys that are going to contribute to this roster. Now, are they going to be difference makers? That's been one of the biggest problems with FC Cincinnati the last couple of years. Every time they make a signing, it's like, we're going to try to hit the home run and in one shot fix this roster. It's not going to happen. FC Cincinnati does not have the roster space, but They've got some GAM. If they want to trade some, they're going to have a flexibility to get maybe a player that way within the league. If they buy out Kocho, they can move Kubo to TAM and then bring in a DP. That would be an impact signing. So there's still some, flexibility for Albright, but if you're talking adding, 2 or 3 TAM pieces, a DP, a U22, they're not all there because the U22s are all occupied.
So, I mean, you're realistically saying what, 5 more senior big signings?
More? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say 5 signings, but you're talking a DP6 starter. I think you're going to talk maybe a starting right back, a starting 8, and then you're just talking maybe a depth piece and a center back and a forward, unless you get Baji. But the thing is, there's so much GAM that we have the flexibility there. It's just the top of the roster spots. So, everything's going to do what I liked about the Alvis Powell signing, for example. Alvis Powell's only signed for 1 year. If we can get another player or two like that, where we have some flexibility, like the Bengals with, was it Larry? What the heck's his name? Abuji or whatever, the defensive tackle. Like, get a player like him who it's a 1 year prove it deal. That's what FC Cincinnati needs to do to fill out the back of this roster and not limit them for the full rebuild next year.
And not to forget,
Ogunjobi, that was it. Ogunjobi.
Okay, and not to forget, we do have Tyler Black only for the first half of the season.
That is true, but he's got an option for like a year and a half after this, which I fully expect them to pick up.
All right. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot to do, lot going on. A couple other pieces of news before we head out, and I have a surprise question to ask all of our co-hosts this evening. Guys, we've been waiting for this announcement all year. The biggest event ever in soccer in Cincinnati is coming to Cincinnati in 2022. EMLS Series 1 is going to be hosted in Cincinnati January 15th and 16th. The first day is going to be, I guess, limited to only the participants at TQL Stadium, and then the finals on Sunday, January 16th at Promo West Pavilion at Ovation in Newport. So, Jason, I know you're a big FIFA guy. You going to be there cheering on your favorite EMLSer?
Sure. Who is our EMLSer? I know it's.
We got a new guy.
Cisse season.
What?
It's Cisse season. That's his name.
Okay. I knew Fiddle, and then
he's not Fiddle.
Yeah.
He's no Fiddle.
I had to give up on playing FIFA online when like 8-year-olds were schooling me. It made me feel bad about myself.
It's a good time to jump out.
Yeah.
I thought you loved the move. You always wanted MLS to Newport. You weren't like a big West End fan, You've just been waiting for this moment for like the last 4 years.
Announce Newport, yes.
Well, MLS did make it over to the Ovation site, so props to all the people who made that happen. I'm actually pretty excited to see it. Should be a pretty cool venue over there at the Promo West Pavilion. So if we are able to go and visit, I will absolutely try to do so. A couple other moves. Fan favorite Spencer Richie has moved over to Chicago Fire from Seattle Sounders FC. I think there was some speculation between him and Stephen Cleveland where they might end up, and that name was bandied around. Stephen Cleveland was bandied around a lot of it in Cincinnati, but I will have to say the only person who can have Cincinnati or Cleveland on a jersey in Cincinnati is Tommy G with his Browns. Sorry to those guys this evening, but congrats to Spencer Richie going to Chicago.
That would have been super confusing though if Cleveland was playing in Cincinnati and from Dayton. So all 3 cities involved.
That's like 3 levels right there, man. It's like whatever the level checkers game. Another piece of information, sending him on his way. Gerard Nijkamp is now, I guess, now the new Sparta Rotterdam technical director. So they are in last place or second last place in the Eredivisie. I think they're maybe
right at home.
One spot above Pexwola. So he's fighting it out. Going to try to lead those guys to safety. So best of luck to Gerard back abroad.
Do they need a keeper?
I heard that they are looking at Locadia. I heard that's a rumor that he was. I guess he was rumored to go there. Right is about the time.
Probably Gaston too.
That's dirty.
This guy knows 5 people, and he's going to sign them all.
He's probably going
Oh.
to bring Ron Jans over.
Yapstam to Sparta.
Oh my
All right,
gosh.
guys. Before we get
Bye.
before we get your final thoughts here, this is the Christmas show, last show of the New Year's. So I'm going to let you guys pick. I want you to either give me your Christmas present that you want out of FC Cincinnati. It could be actually swag. It could be a right back, whatever you want as your Christmas present, or you can give me your New Year's resolution for FC Cincinnati. I'm going to start it off with Jason. Go ahead, my man.
Well, the Christmas present that I wanted from FC Cincinnati were orange jerseys before the holidays. So
Great. That's great.
that would have been great. But I think Christmas present, a real one, would be another DP impact player, either a 6 or an 8, somebody to really spice it up.
Coach Brad Goff, what's your present or resolution?
I'm going to go with a New Year's resolution for FC Cincinnati. And I think that the resolution has to be to have more than, I'm going to say 5 home wins this year. I think that this fan base deserves some happiness, not just from FC Cincinnati, just Cincinnatians in general. We are so miserable in our sports fandom. Some of us are stupid enough to embrace teams like Tottenham or Everton. And so we need some goodness in our life, and some home wins at TQL Stadium. We'll set that on the right direction. I'm going to do a bonus one here for next year. I want a game for FC Cincinnati out here on the West Coast where I can go see them play in person.
Oh, you don't get that this year, do you?
Nope. I mean, Seattle's the closest, and that's not close.
Oof. Yeah, I guess we
Why
did
don't
have
you
the schedule
whine
released,
more,
we didn't
Mr.
we?
California? Jeez Louise, your life is so rough.
It is
Speaking-
it's like 48 here today. It's
Oh my
freezing.
gosh, what a world! Well, I'm just gonna go take a little jog on the beach. It's okay. My life sucks.
Somebody who's going to have to deal with a lot more whining in his life. Brad Weigel, what is your resolution or your Christmas present?
I've thought a lot about this since you asked the question a minute and a half ago. So if I could do one resolution for FC Cincinnati in 2022, it is to make the pretzels not suck at TQL Stadium, ladies and gentlemen, along with a lot of the other food.
It's the last time I'm throwing it to Brad for this show. Jeremy?
I would like them to give me sustained joy and happiness. We had little moments of it. There's moments of happiness throughout the season. The first game, just hanging out with friends, talking about new signings. But then after that is a lot of unhappy parts. And I would like less of those and more happiness.
Like, happiness like my love life, very short and sweet.
Oh, you hit the bullseye, though.
Nobody,
Jeff Tebbets.
nobody laughs. Come on, you guys.
Jeff Tebbets said, give me a Detroit City FC game in the U.S. Open Cup. I will check that and raise you a Louisville City meaningful game. Because I love those guys. But I want to go there to see to play them in Louisville.
I want to see Detroit City and their
Sweet Hell is
sellout
real.
fans show up.
What'd you say, Jason?
Sweep hell is real. That
There
should
you
have
go.
been.
I
mine.
can't wait to see that city meltdown when they get an MLS franchise.
All right. So I have two.
It's gonna be so sweet.
You mean when they find out who's
Like,
actually financing
what-
their USL
Detroit
bid?
now. Detroit.
what is gonna happen?
I'm gonna.
It is
laugh.
gonna be amazing. Like,
I may have to take a day off work. I'll be laughing so hard.
like all their 17 and a half fans are gonna be outside, like launching smoke bombs around the stadium.
Go up there and slap a
Alright.
sticker on one of their
Alright,
banners.
just
That'll-
don't-
I got to be
God.
careful because in the NPSL days, these guys got my phone number, so they
Oh,
might
no.
still have it.
Don't allegedly spit on them. That's all I can say. As a Christmas present, I want Jeff Birding to get me a nice spot once legal gambling is officially legal. Sportsbook, give me a nice spot behind the end zone so I don't have to walk too far from my seat to go place bets in game and prop bets and all that stuff. So that's the Christmas present I want, Jeffrey.
What?
Gambling in TQL Stadium.
Why? Just so you can look at it? Lucy ain't gonna let you bet on that.
This is how that's going to go. Oh, who's starting in goal? Hold on. I got to go make a bet.
Hold on, I gotta move Brad from this show because he's annoying the piss out of me. My New Year's resolution, in all seriousness, is that I want. Hopefully, somebody from Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati, listens to this show. There's a gap between the fans, the players, and the club, And I think Chris Albright is actually kind of forcing a little bit, or he's got some nuance. He knows kind of to kind of embrace each other again. We need some of those interactions that we had. Doesn't have to be like me hanging out with players like that's, but more special things, more meaningful things, not just checking the box things, to make the club a club again, and make it feel like we're all bought in together, like this thing's together, like whether it's the players hanging around for autographs or I don't have the secret formula for this, but we need to embrace each other again. And I feel like it's been different segments, just however, make it happen, make everybody one loving family again. And I'm sure winning is part of that. So that is our Christmas presents and New Year's resolutions, guys. Rupesh, don't suck. Good job. I love it. Guys, appreciate you coming out for the show. I guess we all had those things, but let's do our final thoughts. Bradley, you're going to kick us off with your final thought for the year. If you can pass, if you want to click the pass button.
No, I'm just glad we can put it this season to bed. It's the hope that kills you, as we always say, but I actually believe that we've got the groundwork in place. So I'm looking forward to 22. I just hope we don't ship a bunch of last minute 89th minute goals in 22, but I think finally we're heading down the right path. And as I said earlier, we finally gotten back to 0, and it's only up from here.
Jason.
I guess my final thought is it was good to talk to you all, one last time before the holiday. I hope all FC Cincinnati fans have a good holiday. And I hope that, when we come back in January and that international window opens, we're talking about some good signings and getting ready for a positive season.
Yes, sir. Jeremy.
Hey, the next time we all get together, it'll be 2022. And we'll be turning the page away from 3 not so great seasons with everything looking up. I'm going to try to be optimistic. It'll probably blow up in my face, but let's do it anyways. I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. Coach Goff.
I'm going to do a little shameless self-promotion here, as I'm wont to do, and say Justin Hoyt and I are going to be kicking Talking Tactics back up really soon because he is in England and I am in California. The time is really difficult. So what you need to do is go get subscribed to the Talking Tactics with Coach Golf podcast, because we have no idea when it's actually going to release. So if you want to be on that list, you got to subscribe so you'll get it.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a Alvis Powell special on there, right, Coach?
That's the hope.
Got to work those avenues now. Got to get the correct pathways.
I will say Justin Hoyt played with Alvis Powell, and he is very excited by the signing. So I will take that.
I love it. I guess for me, my final thoughts is I felt like last year we kept saying how great the team was going to be. We're raising the floor and things are going to be wonderful. And they weren't in 2021. So I think we're going to be a little more cautiously optimistic going forward, but hearing the things we're hearing and seeing the things going on. And really, I think I put it all up to Chris Albright's Skyline Chili socks that he wears that we're going to be successful in 2022. So it's the hope that kills you. Very excited to see what lies ahead for FC Cincinnati. And I'm going to steal this, Brad. Is it onward and upwards to 2022?
It would be onward to 3 points, but that's for the whole season. So,
all right. For Mr. Mumbles, for Jason, for Jeremy, and for Coach Brad Golf, this is Bryan Weigel signing off for 2021, and we will see you all bright and early next year.